If you're just now tuning in, let me know if you can hear me. All right. Breaking news. It just came out within the last hour. Um, Ed Reed Ed Reed is out as head coach at Bethune Cookman. You guys are gonna have to bear with me because this is my first live show that I've ever done. So I'm on a learning curve here. But I think it's very important that as an HBCU family that we support Bethune Cookman. It's going to be very important because there is going to be another wave of backlash that Bethune Cookman uh, will face just because people are think that they're entitled to our space. They think that they're entitled to come in, disrespect us, do whatever they want, and not face any repercussions for, the outbursts that he did. I'm getting ready to read the statement for you all that was just posted. Um, he did go live once again on his Instagram. And I'm going to see if I can get that video for you as well so that you can take a look at that statement. But what do you guys think about Bethune Cookman? Are you happy that they decided to X him out? Do you feel like they should have gave him another chance? Let me know in the comments what you think about Bethune deciding to just go ahead and axe it right here. And who do you think the next head coach will be? Like what implications does this have for those recruits that just recently committed to Bethune Cookman? Will they withdraw? Like how do you think this will affect their recruiting this year? And I'm going to see if I can get a couple of people on here to discuss it real quick. Let me see. Thank you. I just found out how to pin a comment. So I'm going to see if I can get a couple of people in here so that we can discuss the firing of, well, it wasn't even a firing. They just decided to not move forward with their contract. And a lot of times that happens. Things don't work out. And for this instance, it just didn't end up working out for Bethune Cookman, which I think after that blast, it's probably best that they don't go ahead and move forward. Okay. And I did find the announcement, which it was on his um he put it on his Twitter. So let's go ahead and take a look at that announcement. So um he says Bethune Cookman University has been working with my legal team to craft contract terms with the language and resources we knew were needed to build a successful football program. It's my desire to not only coach football, but to be an agent of change that most people just talk about being. However, after weeks of negotiation, I've been informed that the university won't be ratifying my contract and won't make good on the agreement we had in principle, which had provisions and resources best needed to support the student athletes. So that's important to look at. He was trying to get Bethune Cookman to place in a contract that they would be providing certain provisions and resources. Now, it's important to point out that Bethune Cookman didn't necessarily have provisions and resources, especially after these two hurricanes and cracked buildings. So he knew just from looking that more than likely Bethune Cookman wasn't going to have these types of resources available, but he was trying to get it placed in the contract. And one thing that is important to point out is when something is in a contract, if they don't follow through with the stipulations in that contract, you can be sued. That's not something that you can sue somebody if they don't fulfill what's placed in that contract. Thank you, Ms. Shanetta, for checking in. And he also says that he was committed to coaching and cultivating a relationship with the university's players, community, and the fans. And it's extremely disappointing that this won't be happening. And then he just goes on to thank people for his vision and greatness, and that he's not going to stop changing lives for the better. So, what do you guys think about Bethune Cookman deciding not to move forward? Me personally, I think it's a great idea. It's probably one of the best things that Bethune Cookman could do. Oh, and wait, we have Jeff Lightsy.
How's it
Thank
going?
you for coming.
Hey, it's no problem at all. No problem at all.
Thank you so much. This is my first live video that I've ever done, live stream. So thank you so much. And then we have Donna here. She wants to speak as well. Thank you all for tuning into my live. So Jeff, I want to get your thoughts because this is hot off the press. What do you think about Bethune Cookman's decision to not move forward with the contract?
It's multiple fold, right? So it's like you get where they're coming from because what Ed did was he did it up with those lives, cursing them out, calling them MFers, all of that stuff. Like that's just unprofessional. It's just not how you start your tenure off at anywhere. You know what I mean? Like anywhere. Like if you go in any kind of corporate America or anywhere as a head coach of a program, a leader of young men, that's not how you want to start it off. At the same time, I didn't think they would do it because at this point, that live took place a week ago. He's apologized since then. He's held a cleanup since then. And he's currently in the middle, or was in the middle of the biggest recruiting weekend ahead of signing day on February 1st. So I thought if you were going to pull the plug on the idea, it would have been after the second live. I didn't think they'd wait a week to do what they inevitably always, it seemed like, wanted to do. And so that's what makes it kind of a mess because now you're a week and some change away from National Signing Day. You've got guys who were committed that will now decommit. You've got guys who were on the team that will now hit the portal. And you're doing all of this, ahead of what you would seem to be a pretty important football season. And so it was, if I'm just being honest, the Ed Reed tenure was a mess just in general. The fact that he was actively working and isn't under contract, the fact that he was actively hosting recruiting weekends and hasn't even had a press conference that he's the official head coach of the university, all of it was just kind of, I hate to say it, but like kind of janky. Whether it was Ed's fault or Bethune's fault, I don't know. It was all kind of janky. And so to see it inevitably end like this, I'm not surprised, but kind of surprised all in the same. It is going to be interesting to see how both Bethune moves forward from this and Ed Reed. We got to talk. This is not a man with a deep coaching resume. And the only place you were going to get to be able to just jump in as a head coach was at a Bethune Cookman or was at an HBCU. You weren't going to get that chance at Miami or even at a group of 5 school with no resume at all. The only place you're going to get that chance was at Bethune, and the it's over before it even starts. And to see if he'll ever get that chance again will be interesting.
I think maybe they were looking over. My take is the reason why they would not move forward so quickly. They wanted to make sure they had all their T's crossed and all the I's dotted as far as legally, what could they do without facing possibly getting sued. And
Yeah.
so when I took a step back and said, okay, maybe they wanted to, number one, wait until the flames kind of died down, because it was a lot of backlash on both sides. So maybe Bethune Cookman took a step back and said, maybe I need to figure out, is there any legal ramifications if we decide to not go forward with this contract? And then I also had to take a look and say, has he been showing any other signs of being unstable? He might have been still ranting and raving even past this week that we don't know about, and
Yeah,
it
that's
just
true.
wasn't publicized.
That's true. That's true. And if you had to bet, you would bet that he was. Like, you would bet that he was doing some sort of they were feeling him on the back end. It's just a very particular thing to go through, because it honestly, this experiment, as much as excited as I was, and I haven't said this publicly yet, but as excited as I was for Ed Reed to be the head coach of Bethune Cookman, the way all of this went down did more hurt for HBCUs than help, right? Like, the way all of this, I mean, you guys can tell me if you feel differently, but the way that he, you hire him, you never even get a chance to have a press conference. He makes essentially three total lives, Instagram lives, that will be seen by millions of people, just disparaging your university, continuing to say that Prime was right. And so by Prime, that's not Bethune anymore. That's all of HBCUs essentially. And now to have that from someone who is at least a national icon, but in some spaces a global icon because he played for a global brand in the NFL, that does more hurt than help in the long run. So when that next whoever may be looking to help improve a university, an HBC, whether it's in the SWAC, NEAC, CIAC, SIAC, or whatever, CIAA, or wherever, they'll think back to Ed Reed's brief time at Bethune Cookman, and to me, that doesn't help anyone.
Had a couple of people comment on the live, and they said that he was still acting unstable, even in his last video, that it was unstable. I'm going to see if I can try
Have
to
you watched
find
it?
it.
I've watched it. Have you seen it,
Okay,
Timona?
and what are your takes? Did you feel like he was unstable in that video as well?
Well, it depends on what you call unstable, but he used curse words. I mean, I don't know. At that point, it doesn't matter because he's no longer an employee of the university. So, like, that's the thing. How I hold people in regards. If you're an employee of a university, what he did in those first 2 lives were just unacceptable, right? But in this last live, hell, at this point, he's no longer an employee of the university. He was very emotional. He was very emotional because I think this was a place that he wanted to do some good work in. I do think this was a place that he could have found a lot of success in. I also think he bit off more than he could chew. It was in a little worse condition than he expected. I'm not so sure if he actually ever visited the campus before getting there. He just knew it was in Daytona Beach, which is Florida, which is a place he knew he could have some success in, which I don't disagree. But at the same time, there's a certain level of professional decorum that you have to have. Not just that, even if you're a football coach. I know people think football burly, oh man, strong, dummies, whatever, jocks, whatever. No, but there's still a certain level of decorum that even when Deion Sanders was at his peak of frustration, there was a certain level of decorum that he had with Jackson State and with all the HBCUs. There is a certain level of decorum that Mario Cristobal has at Miami that Ed Reed just spent the previous 3 years at. He understands this. There's a certain level of decorum that John Harbaugh has with the Baltimore Ravens, who Ed Reed played for many years, right? There's a certain level of decorum that the general managers have with the Ravens, or that the assistant coaches have with the Miami Hurricanes, or, et cetera, et cetera. So he understands what professional decorum is. And that's why I was so disappointed in his original lives. By this third one, he was upset. He was emotional. And, you're no longer the head football coach. So I don't hold you to those same standards of professional decorum.
Well, it looks like I did find a tidbit of it. So we can go ahead and I'm going to share that so that we can take a look at it and just watch the video. Let's see.
After playing and what we started doing, young man. Motherfuckers. Yeah, I curse. And y'all done heard curse words before. And they got parents in here. You know I don't want to leave. And like I told you, I want all these recruits. But they got some corrupt people in this world, some evil people that don't care about kids like I do. So I want y'all to hear the truth from me. I ain't withdrawing my name. I got the receipts. They got all kinds of stuff going on around here, hoarding these buildings with nothing but trash in them. You understand me? And Deion was right. And I know I'm right. And they got some people in here who be snitching to their ass. And I work amongst Judas as Jesus walked with him. And I ain't have a problem with it. Because even Jesus prevailed. Sir. And what God got for you, no man can take it. Sir.
So he used Jesus in his speech.
I knew you was gonna eat that one up. I knew that.
And then
I knew you was gonna say something about that.
Okay. He said something about Judas. Listen, I'm sorry, but just because you are an NFL player does not equate or translate to head coach. We see Eddie George at TSU. He's an NFL player, and he knows how to speak on camera. He knows how to relay what he needs. No, he's not winning, but I would rather for a coach to have that type of decorum than for it to be about winning. Because even if he was going to win at Bethune, at what cost? Like, at what cost does the HBCU as a whole have to take just to say that we had Ed Reed? So I commend Bethune Cookman for deciding not to move forward with this contract, because once again, I feel like we're going to have one of these episodes and you are in the media. So like you said, the first press conference wasn't going to be about the recruits. It was going to be about all of the statements that he made. So for everybody that's tuning in, thank you for joining us. We're not going to be here for very long, but I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're just sharing our preliminary thoughts of Coach Ed Reed not being the head coach of Bethune Cookman. And we're also asking for everybody that's in the HBC community, you need to be wrapping your heads around the fact that we need to support Bethune Cookman in their choice. There is going to be backlash. We're going to see another resurgence of people going in on HBCUs, talking down on them just because of Ed Reed's reach. He is a national head figure. He has so much social media influence. And Jeff, quickly, I just wanted to ask you one more thing for you to highlight on, and that is, how does the HBCU media respond to this, and who do you think the next head coach will be?
So that's twofold. I think there will be a lot of. Here's the thing. So it depends. You were specific. You said the HBCU media. I think the HBCU media will be in the collective agreement. It's like, oh yeah, I think they made the right decision. Like you said, Timona, and like I've already seen others post. I think the national perspective will be different. I think let me say that again. There's a difference. There's folks who attended HBCUs and understand the plight and the struggle of HBCUs that will be in agreement with Bethune. Obviously, some will not, but I think an overwhelming majority, like 70, 75, 80% will be like, oh, I get where Bethune coming from. I support Bethune. I don't think, he came in guns blazing, aiming the guns at the wrong people. And yeah, he got what he deserved. Now, when it comes to the national media, that will be flipped. I think that 75, 80% overwhelming majority will be shaming Bethune Cookman. Right or wrong, they will be shaming Bethune and say Bethune will lose the best thing that possibly could have ever happened to him. Ed, now, Timona, you haven't watched the live, but Ed almost said as much himself on that live. He didn't use those exact words, but he got pretty close to saying losing me is going to be like your worst mistake. He didn't. Once again, this is me kind of deciphering what I heard. But at the same time, then when it comes to the next head coach, I don't know. That's because one, it's really late in the game. Two, there will be some potential coaches who will be turned off by what they saw by the handling of Ed Reed by Bethune Cookman. There will be, right or wrong, there will be some coaches that say, hell, if they do Ed Reed like that, how are they going to do me? You know what I mean? They're not really taking into account what Ed Reed kind of did to himself. So it's twofold. I don't know who possibly could be the next head coach. Hell, I didn't even know Ed Reed was interested in the job. So he kind of came out of nowhere. So I don't know who they're going to go with.
Do you think that there is any white institution that would hire Ed Reed, even though we're going to face the backlash? Do you think that there is a predominantly white institution in the state of the United States that would ever hire a coach like that, even though we're going to face the negative white media? Do you think there's even would they even hire him as an assistant head coach?
The answer is no. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I say you got to take into consideration what Ed did. Like, this isn't all just on Bethune. Ed made those Instagram lives calling the administration MFers, talking bad about the administration when you're coming in with zero head coaching experience. Don't get me wrong. You have a gold jacket that you didn't buy, but that is from playing. That's not from recruiting. That's not from coaching. That's not from making in-game adjustments. That's not from scouting. That is from playing. And so to use, the only way Ed will get a chance in coaching is from an HBCU, right or wrong. Let me repeat this. The only way, at any way. Now, he could probably end up back at Miami as like a director of personnel, but that's not coaching. That's just being an advocate and ambassador for the University of Miami, essentially. But when it comes to coaching, whether it's an assistant or head coach, the only place that was willing to give him a chance then and even possibly in the future is at a historically black college or university. No group of, like, I was a media personality. I was a media member for a group of 5 PWI. Like, I know how that stuff works. They're not hiring Ed Reed. They weren't hiring Ed Reed before those lives. That's why he was at Bethune. They weren't giving him coaching jobs before those lives. They damn sure ain't giving him no job after this. No, not at all.
And then I think it's important to also add to the fact that the way that he is going out, I wanted to play the video, but I don't know if I would get a copyright on it. But it's when David Ruffin, when he came in and he said, "You think you guys can do this to me?" Like, like, it's this, like, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. That's how I feel like.
I see. But see, you're going to be in the minority, though, Timona. Like, when it comes to the national perspective, I'll say.
And that's why we have to gatekeep a little bit better. You know what? I don't think they vetted him enough because they just was like, oh my goodness, this is the change that we need. But they didn't vet him enough. And he actually went on a tour, even though they keep saying that he turned down these particular jobs. They said that he applied to be the head coach at Jackson State. His name was put in the hat at Grambling. I'm not sure if he tried to get at Alabama State or at UAPB. But I will say this to any head coach, or if you're in the NFL and you have a Hall of Famer and you have aspirations for coming to a HBCU, there are HBCUs that have the facilities. So if you're looking for a job and you don't want to build up and you want it to already be built, there are several HBCUs that do have upgraded facilities. Bethune Cookman just wasn't it. And I don't think he had somebody to come in and do the research. Coach Prime
Yeah,
speaks about the research he did.
yeah. I mean, you're right, because and also you would, and that's why that was the disappointment I had in Ed, right? Like there's blame to be had on both sides, but like you said, if you do your research, that's not to excuse Bethune for some of the things that they did, but if you did do your research, you'd understand that this is a private institution. If you did your research, you'd understand this is an institution that has struggled recently financially. If you did your research, you'd understand that this institution was hit by 2 tropical storms or hurricanes in the last calendar year. Like, so those are things. So I would think if you did your research and you knew these things, you would give them some sort of leniency, right? And Ed didn't do that. He didn't do that, and unfortunately, it cost him his job. It cost him his job. It cost him an opportunity. And whether you like the way Bethune handled it or not, I mean that's up to you. But at the same time, they're justified in what they did. I can say that confidently. They are justified in the decision that they made. Ed Reed, in the language that he used on those 2 Instagram lives initially, is credence for removal. That is credence to fire someone. And if you don't think so, you don't know what you're talking about.
Did you have a chance to take a look at his statement where he said that
I did.
The university won't be ratifying my contract and won't make good on the agreement we had in principle, which had provisions and resources best needed to support the student athletes? I feel like he was probably asking in his contract for things like a brand new field, or he was asking for things that Bethune probably thought that he would be bringing with him. Meaning, we don't have the resources since you know so much about what Deion said. So are you prepared to bring the resources in? And
Like
in
Deion
his
did.
statement, he said that they're not going through with the contract on what we agreed upon, which is provisions and resources best needed to support the student athletes. So you're asking for somebody who ain't got it. You're going to need to have it when we sign this contract. So if they would have signed that contract and not delivered on those provisions in the contract, then he could have sued. So I feel like they were probably going back and forth on that, and then they just decided altogether to get rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, good observation. I mean, I do not disagree with you not one bit, because it I mean it I'm gonna be honest with you, Timon. I mean, it has been a show from the jump, and not a good show. Not a good
At least
show.
when Deion came through with his show, it was an awesome made for TV story.
Absolutely. And I mean, you wish that no one ever bashes you or whatever, ever, right? But at least he did it on his way out the door, and not from the jump of his tenure. You get what I'm saying? Like, Ed just could have handled this so much better, and I think we'd be talking about something totally different today, as opposed to him being relieved of his duties. I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do think there's things Bethune could have did, but you gave Bethune. It was almost like giving Bethune a gun and ammo and daring them to shoot. It is literally like giving them a gun and ammo. Like, I'm gonna say any and everything that's on my mind about you with no professional decorum. Here's a gun. It's loaded. I dare you to shoot me. And they went ahead and pulled the trigger. And that's unfortunate. But this is going to be a story for both of them moving forward, and not in a good way.
just looking in at the comments, there's a lot of people, and of course, we're in the HBCU realm, so our comments might be a little bit different than other places, but for the most part, everyone is in agreement that Ed Reed's statements basically got him fired. Bethune Cookman uh, was on the right for going ahead and getting rid of him. So the the AD is currently the basketball coach,
Yes.
and he has a game today in Jackson. So I wonder how this will affect him because once again, he has a big game today, and the focus. I know his phone is. He might as well just turn his phone off. Just
Oh,
turn your phone off
absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
you're going to be once again. You have to deal with the shenanigans right before your game, and so it says that Deion Sanders joined his live. Now
He
this is
did.
some
I didn't see
messy
that part, but I
ass.
did.
That is some messy ass. Excuse my French. That is some messy ass shit, Coach Prime. You see, Ed Reed is the type of friend. You know, there's friends that will say what you're thinking. Ed Reed is one of those I don't have a filter type of guys.
Absolutely.
Deion is the type that he knows in order to keep in the endorsements and his job that he can't be doing all that. I cannot believe that Deion Sanders joined the live. That is bananas to me.
It also is interesting because it goes back to what you've said, and I gotta leave after this, Timona. But I appreciate you having me on.
That's
But I do
fine.
want to
Thank
make
you for coming.
this point. It goes back to what I've heard you say previously: is that Deion loves this space. Like he loves it over here. I mean, and he loves to be in the HBCU space. Now I get it for a while until he actually plays some games and does some things at Colorado. He will always be linked to Jackson State simply because that's the only place he's ever coached, been a head coach. But to, like you said, join the live. Like as Ed is in the middle of having a meltdown, like kind of like wearing his emotions on his sleeve. Now I haven't seen that part, but I have read that Deion was on there. I think he gave a prayer from what I read and gave him some words of encouragement. I did see, like during the live, the part that I did see, Deion actually called, I guess Ed's either assistant. He called whoever was working the camera for Ed because Ed was giving the speech to the student athletes, to the parents and everything, and there was someone holding his phone on his Instagram live, and Deion called that person and was on the phone with them. So like, and for him to join that live was interesting because it kind of tries to give him more credence on saying like, this is what I told you I was going down at HBCUs, and I don't think that's fair.
Everyone, if you're just now tuning in, that's Jeff Lightsy. He does have to go. Thank you so much for tuning in to my first live. Thank you for coming in and sharing your thoughts.
Hey, it's no
Everybody, if
problem.
you could please like the stream. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe. This is my channel, SheLovesThee, and basically I share my thoughts on HBCU football, the culture, and politics. Some people, I'm just gonna go over the comments.
I appreciate it again, Miss She
Thank you
Loves
so
D.
much,
I
Jeff
will
Lightsy.
see you next time. Appreciate it. Thank you so much again.
Some people are sharing that we're never going to be able to get free from Deion, and a lot of people are saying that Deion's going to be linked to that 31-10 beatdown South Carolina State gave him. Listen, I don't care what y'all say. Deion Sanders misses Jackson State. He does, because guess what? At Colorado, he's kind of like just another employee, you know. As long as you're doing good, they're, singing their praises, but the amount of vitriol from people like when Deion Sanders would post a video, everybody would be like, "Thank God he's giving us exposure. We get to see what the players are doing. This is great. This is exposure that we needed." If you look in the comments when Deion Sanders posts anything football related, it's what has he done to deserve this? He's going to be 1-11 as well. They always put him on the camera. He hasn't even played a game yet. So I think for Deion to join that live, it speaks to the fact that he's probably enjoying this messiness, but he for me, I feel like it's a disservice to his legacy. Just the little nitpicking that he does, and it's very subtle, very passive aggressive, the type of stuff that he does, but it really tarnishes his legacy in the HBCU realm, because if he would have just left and left it at that, he could have, held that legacy. But every time he nitpicks at Jackson State or at HBCUs, he chips away at that legacy that he built. And for people saying that Ed Reed is going to be on the staff at Colorado, no. Colorado is not going to do anything. I don't even see him getting hired back at Miami. And it says there's God saw beginnings and no end, says there are at least 5 SWAC schools that would never have hired Deion. Sadly, more people would have felt those schools would have been in the wrong. So I want to make this perfectly clear. I do not think that hiring Deion Sanders was a bad idea. What I do think that HBCU legal and anybody that's in the legal realm, we have to know how to write our contracts. You have to know how to include language when they're signing that dotted line. There's certain things that won't be tolerated. Disparaging the university. You can put a clause in there about speaking ill of the university. If you do X, Y, and Z, this will happen. The amount that he has to pay in order to leave. We only made it $300,000. Do you know that if Deion Sanders tries to leave Colorado in the first year, he has to pay like $15 million, and then it's like $10 million for the second year? He's really has a 360 deal. Like, go look at Deion Sanders' contract in Colorado. It's a 360 deal, and anything that he did at Jackson State, they made sure legally in that contract, like as far as the social media, the posting, they own all the rights to everything. So while I think that the same can be said, like HBCU, the legal teams, they have to write and include clauses. Thank you, Jerica, an NDA. They have to include certain clauses in these contracts to hold these celebrities accountable. And it's not like they don't know. It's not like Ed Reed knows that he can't be doing outbursts in Miami. It's not like Deion Sanders doesn't know that he can't say, it wasn't hot enough, or excuse me, it wasn't warm enough in my office. It was too cold in my office. They didn't have the snow cleared at the sidewalk. You'll never hear Deion say the sidewalks weren't clear in Colorado. Even if they weren't, you're not going to hear it. And the reason why is because they have a contract that all of that language is put in there. And we do have a troll. And Kevin Washington said Ed wanted to get fired. So I feel like Ed Reed did want for Bethune Cookman to do the firing, because once he saw, he was like, I'm not doing this. But come on now. He could have just bowed out gracefully. Oh, is there? Okay, so we have a troll, and let me see if I'm able to mute them. Okay, there we go. I put him in timeout. He's blocked for 5 minutes. Thank you all for tuning into my first live. If you would please like the stream, hit the share button. Does anybody else want to come in on the stream and say something? I know, let's see. He wasn't even officially hired. And that is correct. Basically, and there's a couple of shows on Raw Truth Media where somebody called in and they explained that private institutions, they work a little bit differently with their contracts. So like at a public institution, you're hired and you would start January 1st. Whereas with private institutions, their contracts work a little differently. And actually we have Jay Blue here, and he can actually speak to that because he worked at Bethune Cookman. So he can explain a little bit about how those contracts work. Thank you for streaming in, Jay Blue.
Hey, no problem, no problem. So I already knew once he went live, it was a wrap. And people got to understand, BCU is a faith-based institution with strong ties to the church. And as soon as he used all the MFers and whatever else he said on his live, I already knew that this deal would not happen. And yes, I did work at Cookman, and it does take them a little longer to process contracts. And I worked for them in 2015, and it took them a long time to process contracts. I had to actually tell my boss that I would not actually put in my 2-week notice at my current job in order to come without a contract. I wasn't doing that. That's just crazy. So I still don't understand why he was even on campus without a signed contract, because he should have told him I'm not going to report to campus until there is a contract that I can sign. Yeah, this was just a bad situation all around, in my opinion. But yeah.
Great. Can you quickly share maybe just about the culture of Bethune Cookman, and can you please share quickly about what they're probably going through as far as with the hurricane, how that could negatively affect the ability for them to if they're already under a lot of stress in the administration, how that could negatively affect maybe the ability for them to have those funds to put towards sports.
Yes. Okay. So a lot of people got to understand too that them not having the campus cleaned, and after the hurricane, and the second hurricane that came through was in November, and that's the one that really damaged the school severely. They have had a lot of infrastructure damage on that campus. Yes, they could clean up and everything, but if you're looking at cleaning up, it's all about priorities. If my campus is messed up, I'm not concerned with the practice field when we're not even in season. I'm concerned about buildings where my students are going to try to come back to actually go to class, actually have the res halls correct, the student union correct, all of that stuff. So the practice field and all of that was probably it should have been on the back burner in the first place. In reference to the school, if anybody does any research on Cookman, go back and just look up the Bethune Cookman University residential dorm fiasco, which left the institution in severe debt, like riddled.
And was this like a loan that was taken out? And
yes, it was a loan that was taken out through Wells Fargo. And the president at the time said, well, he doesn't remember signing that. And nobody could fess up with, well, how did your signature get on this paper to sign this loan? Because the loan that they had with Wells Fargo was well over $300 million for 2 res halls. It does not take $300 million to build 2 residential halls on a college campus.
And I would just like to quickly point out, I'm sorry for interrupting you, but fine. He just said that it was a Wells Fargo loan. If you have been in the financial and banking news world, what do we know about Wells Fargo? What do we know about subprime lending? What do we know about, because I'm always going to advocate for whenever there's structural or administration issues, that it's always going to lead back to something systemic. So while I don't have the research going, the fact that Jay Blue pointed out that Wells Fargo had their hand in this particular loan, I'm banking on the fact that if I did some research onto what was in that loan, that there was probably some predatory lending that was going on with this $300 million loan.
Yeah, probably. Definitely. And so with the debt that they had at the time, because they was trying to rectify the situation while I was there in 2015, 2016, It just wasn't looking good, and that's one of the reasons why I left the institution, because I knew the writing was on the wall. Shortly thereafter, maybe a year after, so probably in the 2016-2017 school year, probably going in the 17th school year, that's when they started the mass layoffs at the institution. So they are probably running on half of 50% of the staff that was there when I was there, if not less, because I was on a staff of maybe 15 to 20 people. And from that original staff, probably I think it's only 2 people left working there in that area. So
so basically what you're saying is they've had significant staff cuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're underfunded. They have structural damage.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of different factors in it that a lot of people are not holistically looking at the situation. Yes, Bethune, and I'm gonna say it and excuse my French, Bethune fucked up. Yes, they got a lot of fuck ups going on at the institution, but it's bigger than somebody coming out to pick up a branch of trash, fixing the gate, and all of this stuff. Now, granted, I personally, people say that Ed Reed isn't dumb, and I'm not going to say that he's dumb, but apparently some people say I can't believe that he had to have done research because he's smart, but apparently his research wasn't thorough, because if you just do a quick Google search, you can figure out if an institution is on solid financial footing. And they promised him X, Y, and Z. That's what a lot of people do in higher ed. I'm at white schools too. It happens at PWIs. Surprise.
Wait, can you repeat that for them? For people who are just tuning in, Jay Blue, he came in here to speak a little bit about the Bethune culture. He's speaking about some of the struggles that they're facing, and he is letting you guys know that some of the things that are happening at Bethune, they happen at where?
PWIs. I mean, I've worked for more PWIs than I have HBCUs. Now I'm a Jackson State grad through and through. But I've worked at Mississippi State, and I've worked at a few regionals like University of Tennessee at Martin, University of Arkansas, Fort Smith, and they lie to you when you go to those institutions too. I mean, it is what it is. It's up to you to actually do the research. You have to do your own research. You can't just expect that what an institution or administration is telling you when they're trying to hire you is gospel. You need to see it in writing. And unfortunately for him, he didn't see it in writing. So unfortunately, and so I also knew when he went live and said what he said and everything, I already knew that the administration, for one, the administration and the board of trustees probably was embarrassed as hell that he went live and was talking the way he was talking. And so to save face, I knew that they weren't even going to let that contract be signed or even, established.
Do you think that they waited for it to die down? Because people are speaking about the amount of time that, it's been almost a week since these comments. Do you think that it was a good idea for the administration to kind of wait till things die down before they decided to announce to him that they wouldn't be ratifying his contract?
I think it's not a thing of whether it was a good idea. I think it was a thing of probably the administration and the board of trustees going back and forth, because some probably wanted to keep him and some probably wanted his ass gone. And so that's probably what took so long for them to get to this point. And it was probably a lot of headbutting going on. Well, we should keep him, and no, we shouldn't. Because if you think about it, with the faith-based institutions such as Cookman, it's a lot of people that's heavy in the church. And I already knew that, especially the old school alum, once they actually heard about, him going live and seeing it or whatnot, I already knew the old school alum, they wasn't going at all. So it wasn't going to happen. And, am I surprised that it took this long to get to this point? Yes. But am I also not surprised? Yes, because I know how Cookman runs. And I know it was probably some headbutting, because it was definitely probably some people on campus that wanted to keep him. And then a few more that wanted him gone.
Who do you think the next head coach will be?
Personally, they need to look at, and so this is my thing with Cookman priorities. Number one priority for Bethune Cookman right now is getting a competent president in there. They don't like their second their second interim after they ran off President Shrike. So they need to be worried about getting the president and letting that man or woman that's going to come into the mess run the institution and make the decisions that they need to make sure that they can right the ship. In reference to a football coach, at this particular point in time, we are at the end, we're about to go into February. They need to either reach out to a former coach, which from what I've heard from an alum is that Coach Jenkins did reach back out to Bethune and he wanted to actually come back to be the coach at Bethune Cookman. And they were actually pretty good under him when he was the coach at Cookman. But they said apparently they said no. But they need to reach back out to somebody, somebody that has proven coaching experience. Probably somebody.
When you say no, you mean during the first coaching search that he reached out, or after the fiasco he reached out?
No. The first coaching search. So before they even announced Ed Reed as the coach, and I got that from an alum that I talk to on a regular basis. So,
okay. There's a lot of people that are saying Sam Washington. I haven't done a lot of research on him.
He's the former coach at that just got fired from North Carolina A&T. That he had a winning season in the Big South and almost won the championship, and they fired him. And so,
okay, I'm familiar now, and I definitely think that would definitely be a great hire. If this is North Carolina A&T's, you're talking about the coach that they just recently fired,
right? Yeah.
Oh. He's automatically will bring credibility to the program. He automatically would be able to bring players as well. So what do you guys think in the comments about Sam Washington?
And I want to say, isn't he a Grambling grad? Somebody in the chat, I think he may be a Grambling grad, possibly. I'm not sure. But I know he has like thorough ties throughout HBCUs and HBCU football. But I would actually say that they probably need to go after him, especially since he was let go from A&T and they let go a winning coach, saying that they wanted somebody that was going to take them to the next level. Good luck to them. And maybe just seeing who else is out there, man, just that already has, even if they don't come from an HBCU and they come from a PWI, they got to be transparent and letting them know what they're walking into, and saying, these are the facilities. This is what we have now. And this is what you're going to have to work with because we ain't got no money. You just got to be upfront and honest. And I think they sold Ed Reed a bill of goods and saying that they were going to do X, Y, and Z, and he believed it. And that's why I say it's impossible. In my opinion, I can understand people promising to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm just like, did you not go down to the campus and look at the campus before you said you would be the coach? Did you not do walkthroughs through the actual athletic department and where the football department office was? You didn't do that? You didn't ask specific questions about the financial footing of the institution. You just thought you was going to walk in and it was going to be UM 2.0. And because UM really doesn't have the best football facilities in FBS. As a matter of fact, they probably wanted, in reference to the facilities that they have at UM is it's quite mediocre, but it's FBS style. But Cookman is nowhere near close to that at all. So, and I think a lot of people, with the celeb coaches, they definitely don't need. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. Probably, I would dare to say that HBCUs right now, after seeing how things ended with Deion and how things ended with Ed Reed, HBCUs probably are going to be very, very apprehensive to even engage or entertain having a celeb coach on campus.
I mean, we do have Eddie George here at TSU.
Eddie George is different though, because Eddie George has been Eddie George. He minds his business. He doesn't talk a lot. He stays out of the way. He's trying to build a program and he's trying to build it, get it out the mud, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? He knows what he has gotten into. And so he has chosen to do it in a more politically correct way. And he's trying to talk to the people in places to get things changed because he knows it's bigger than TSU.
And so I think it's important to talk about that. Did Ed Reed put a nail on the coffin? And ladies and gentlemen, I want for this is my first live, so if you're just now tuning in, thank you for subscribing. Please hit the like button. We have 331 viewers. I'm getting ready to bring in the Blue Bloods, Zach in, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming on my show. And I just want him to quickly share his preliminary thoughts about Ed Reed being fired. And then we're going to already go ahead and jump in it and talk about a possible replacement with signing day less than 3 weeks away.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I just got your link. Man, the timing of it's a little, because I feel like they would have moved on it a little bit faster, but the fact he hasn't agreed to, he never agreed to a contract fully, I would say. And also on top of that, man, everyone knows here, you can't go into a position and opportunity and cuss everybody out, insult the president, insult the camp. I mean, everything that you shouldn't do in terms of a checklist when you get a job, he did. So I don't think it's a surprise that he was let go, just personally. And, for a replacement, I've talked to some people close to Sam Washington, and I've talked to some A&T alums and everything like that. There's a rumor going around that he's not even ready to take a job right now, that he's going to take a year off and then get back into coaching potentially next year or in the future, because there was a strong belief that if he was going to take another job, it would have been Valley, given his connections to Valley. So I'm not sure if Sam Washington would be a legit candidate or not, but I think Bethune would be good to reach out to him at least and see what he's doing. But from everything that I've heard and a lot of A&T people here is that he wants to take some time off.
Yikes. So Bethune Cookman just decided not to ratify the contract. What implications do you think this has for Bethune's recruiting?
All of them. Carl Reed for 247, he's really well connected, I would say, in terms of HBCU recruiting. Said there were upwards of 20 to 25 plus athletes on campus for a visit this weekend that were ready to commit to Ed Reed and Bethune Cookman. And the fact that now he's out, I mean, you'd be lucky to keep any of them at this point, especially with all the uncertainty surrounding the staff, the head coach, and everything going on campus. All SWAC defensive back Amari Hill Robinson, first team all SWAC selection, went on social media and pretty much drugged Bethune Cookman for their move of firing Ed Reed. So you've really lost the support of your players. You've probably lost a good bit of your recruiting. And I tweeted out, I mean, National Signing Day is 11 days away. They're going to have to make a move extremely fast. And it's just, man, do you trust Bethune Cookman to get out there and find a head coach in 11 days? Because a lot of staff members, with National Signing Day being 11 days out, are not going to be willing to put their other job or wherever they're working in a position to leave 11 days before National Signing Day. So who do you go and hire?
And also, because Ed Reed exposed that the facilities, which we in the HBCU realm, a lot of people know that the facilities aren't up to par, but because of the way that he disparaged Bethune Cookman and the way that he exited, do you think that coaches who do not have any star power would be reluctant to take this job just because, well, if Ed Reed couldn't become the head coach and had no leeway for facilities or resources, how would I take over that program and be successful?
I don't think you're going to get a celebrity hire, but I don't think you need a celebrity hire at this point. I think there are a lot of promising assistant coaches that are already ingratiated in the HBCU culture, whether it's an assistant coach at the D2 level, whether it's an assistant coach for a SWAC, MEAC school, whatever, or someone who is somewhere who is an HBCU grad, et cetera. I really do think with everything that happened, you're going to have to get someone who connects with the campus, connects with what you need in terms of PR wise. I don't think going out and hiring another celebrity would be the move for Bethune Cookman. That would just bring a whole, I mean, who knows what that media storm would be, because you never know if they come in and do the same thing Ed Reed did. So I think you have to find an up and coming assistant like a Kendrick Wade, for like what Valley had, where you get an alum, you get someone who knows what's going on behind the scenes. So you're going to have to go get someone like that. And the problem is, I don't know who you go and get just off the top of my head. It's going to be interesting to see if they can get someone to commit who possibly might be recruiting for another school and can't take the job till after National Signing Day. So that's going to be the challenge for Bethune Cookman. But no, I don't think a celebrity hire is going to happen, and I don't think that's what you need. And you know this because you watch my show as well. I was of the mindset that they should have given Sims one more year with the hurricanes and everything going on campus. I just felt like there was too many things going on for you to make this move of firing your coach. And it looks like they would have been better, honestly, keeping Sims for one more year and getting all their affairs in order off the field and behind the scenes before going through a whole coaching hiring process.
I agree, Blue. Yep.
And once again, this is,
their face.
I think that, so do you think there was going to be some major blowback from, like last week when he did his little rampage, there was maybe social media backlash, but we didn't see like ESPN really talking down on Bethune. But this week, now that he's actually not went through with his contract, do you feel like we're going to see ESPN and Fox Sports? Do you feel like we're going to see them interjecting and having Ed Reed's back, or do you think they're going to say this was best for both parties?
As sad as it is, I think we all three of us on this stream and all however many people are in the chat know exactly what's going to happen. Ed Reed, with Deion Sanders already jumping into the fray on the Instagram Live, you know they have the connections, and you know whose side a lot of the mainstream media people are going to be on. And for me, I feel like it should just be chalked up to it wasn't a good fit, and it wasn't a good fit from the start. When you get quote unquote agreed upon, like a contract agreed upon in principle, like they said in late December, and you can't even make it till the end of January, I think that just shows that it was good for both parties to step away. Ed Reed did not, I guess, wasn't clear about what he was stepping into, and Bethune Cookman needs someone who is going to better understand what they need off the field in terms of correcting things and getting a program back to some sort of stability. So I think it was better for both parties to step away. But with Ed Reed already pretty much coming out and saying he was forced out, Deion supporting him, man, I think it's going to be interesting. And you've already seen the ESPN articles, the NBC Sports, all these, I guess, media conglomerates that don't put their time in covering HBCUs are already jumping into the fray on this story, which is disappointing to say the least.
And I have found, which I cannot believe that he would have the audacity and the gall.
The order, we know how it was going to play out.
I'm going to go ahead and play this video. And let me tell you, if you've just now tuning in, please like and subscribe. So we're going to play this video. It's about 1 minute and 30 minutes long. And then I just want to quickly ask you for your thoughts on the video. This is former JSU head coach Deion Sanders calling in to Ed Reed's live.
What's up, big bro?
Hey, I love you, man. You know that, right?
Yep.
We talked about this. We know the structure. We know the order. We know how it was going to play out. And you've been there fighting. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. You got to understand, Ed, God has a time and a place for you, my brother. And I know your heart. I know everything that's going on inside of you. You know, I know you like a book. And I know how you feel about them kids, and I know you do not want to leave those kids. So I'm praying for you right now, man, because this is going to be the toughest thing you ever had to do in your life. Sometimes, Ed, you got to walk away, my brother. I know it's tough. I know you don't want to hear it. But sometimes in life, we got to walk away. You already know, big bro.
I'm just going to stop it right there. I don't even want to go any further. Let me just say this real quick before I get your thoughts. This is absolutely probably one of the most disgusting things that I've seen Deion Sanders do. Out of all the little nitpicking that he's done, this is one of the most disrespectful things that he could ever do. You are a Power 5 head coach at Colorado, and I hope that they say something to you regarding you going in here speaking on HBCU business. I pray that on Monday morning they say, "Can we talk to you for a minute in your office?" The fact that Deion Sanders would have the gall, the audacity to come into this space and speak on, "We already know how you're feeling. I already told you how it's going to go." Like, what was he thinking?
I don't I don't think he should have jumped into the live, but I mean, to me also, are you surprised?
I
Like
actually am surprised because I thought that Colorado had a better pull. Like, like with Jackson State, Coach Prime, he, for the most part, even though he might do it professionally, he does and he says what he wants. Listen, Deion Sanders, he loves the limelight. He loves trending. And I'm going to just be honest with you. In Colorado, like, if it ain't about football, you're not trending. And then even if you do trend, you're not going to trend for that much for very long. So, and Zach, you can comment on this. Is it a bigger idea that you pull a Power 5, if you're at a Power 5 school, if you pull a 5-star to a Power 5, another Power 5, is it going to be as big as a news as it would when you pull a 5-star to the FCS or an HBCU?
I mean, no, it's not as big of a story, obviously. I mean, it's a bigger story than pulling one to like a top level P5 because I mean, Colorado is not known for landing 5 stars, so it's a big story. It's a bigger story than it would be in Alabama or Georgia, but it's not the same. I mean, obviously, it was the first 5-star to ever commit to an FCS or an HBCU program. I mean, the history is there. I mean, hell, look at the storylines that some people are already saying that. I mean, landing high 3 stars, 4 stars with like Jackson State, Campbell, Western Carolina. I mean, could you imagine like the storylines if any of those landed a 5-star? Because it's already a huge storyline that they're landing just average 4 stars. So it's not the same. I was just shocked that he, the way he came about it and said like we knew how this was going to end. Like they already talked about him not making it. You know what
I
I mean?
just feel like he should have just held his tongue and spoke to him uh off of social media. He could have definitely reached out to him and been there for him. But speaking on, once again, I'm sorry, Deion Sanders likes to be in the limelight, and I fully supported Deion Sanders when he was at Jackson State. And I think anybody who has followed me from Blueblood or Off Scripts show will know that when I speak about Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, I fully supported him. But for this, it looks bad for optics. Number one, you're a Power 5 coach at Colorado. So in my mind, it's stay out of HBCU business. And if you want to talk about HBCU business, do it out of the limelight, because now next week they're all going to be talking about this and it's going to be a shitstorm.
It's not going to be good for me. It's just like at this point, I don't even like. I don't feel like it's even for me. I don't even care about focusing on Prime or Ed Reed. Like I feel like the next thing is I've already got a phone call with the new SID at Bethune Cookman set up later today. I just want to find out like what the next steps are, because for me, if you're going to make a move like this in terms of not finalizing the contract with Ed Reed 11 days before National Signing Day. I just want to know, where are you going? Do you already have a candidate in mind? Do you already have a short list put together? Because it just seems like a very, very risky move to say we're pulling this contract. We already, I mean, because let's just be honest, they've already lost National Signing Day. So you got two approaches. You either rush a hire in 11 days, try to get something together so you can sign some kids on National Signing Day, or do you just say, I'm going to take the L on this one. We're not going to do well in this National Signing Day, and we're going to take our time, hire the right coach, and hope that when this transfer portal window opens after spring practice, we can grab some kids that potentially need some playing time, and just whoever the head coach is this year, just count this year as a growing pain year, and let's try to rebuild next season. So I'm interested to see what path they take, because really and truly those are the only two paths you could take right now, and I really just want to see where the president, the AD, all these guys' heads are, because let's just be honest, I mean, the AD is also the basketball coach right now.
He has a game in a
Yeah,
couple of hours. The head coach and the current AD of Bethune Cookman has a basketball game, and he had to deal with this last weekend as well. So I'm sure he's stressed out. He just needs to turn his phone off. Just turn your phone off.
Yeah, I can't imagine like trying to balance all that. So that's my thing, is like I'm kind of over the talking about what this celebrity is, or what this, or like who's in the right. Like at this point, it doesn't even matter. Ed Reed's not going to be the head coach of Bethune Cookman. What's next? I want to keep moving on, because like I don't even like talking about weird storylines like that. I would rather just keep it X's and O's. Like, who are you bringing in? Who are you recruiting? What scheme are you going to run? Things like that. So that's the questions I have for the SID when I talk to him, try to get that behind the scenes scoop. But man, I got to run. I appreciate you inviting me on the stream.
Thank you, Bluebloods, for tuning in. Everybody, if you haven't subscribed to his show, he has a lot of great content. And I'm actually going to end up ending this show right about here. I think we've covered pretty much the basis for it. You'll be able to tune in to everybody else's shows. I'm pretty sure they're going to be having them in the coming days. Please, if you will, like the stream, subscribe, because we're going to have a lot of content, not just dealing with Ed Reed. I talk about HBCU politics and culture. And I have a lot of people in the comments that aren't, that I guess we have the pro Ed Reeds that have finally came in and arrived, which I think it's good to, share from both sides what people are saying. They said Ed Reed got fined for saying the truth. How is he bringing HBCUs down when he's trying to elevate them and hold them accountable? I could possibly show you how, but just his language. Anybody who works in corporate America, or just if you're a teacher and you've went somewhere and you haven't had everything that you've needed, I'm sure you didn't like cuss out the administration, go on social media and say they don't have this for you, and da 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 da, and MF this and MF that. Like, I'm pretty sure that that there is a social media clause in your contract. Ed Reed hadn't even signed a contract and he already cussing out people. It's just, you can't cuss out your administration that you're getting ready to start working for. It doesn't matter if it's an NFL head coach or if it's the president of the United States. There's certain types of language that you just don't use, because these videos can be played over and over and over again. You can't get rid of them, and they make him look unstable. They do not make him look, like somebody that should be running the head of a football program. And can you imagine him on the football field and one of the kids fumble the ball, or him losing? Can you imagine how he would act? Like, okay, I want to look at the rest of this video real quick to see. I'm gonna finish it.
You didn't let nobody down, Ed. You didn't let them kids down. You did what you was called to do, and you tried your best.
Thank you, big brother.
I love you, man. I'm here I will be on the next flight if you need me. You know that.
Nah, you good. You handle your business. You know that. I'll give you a call.
Please. Hey, you know what God wants from you, man, and be that. Don't let them provoke you, my brother. I love you, man. All right.
I think that Deion Sanders should have probably talked to him about his rants and raves while he's getting on Instagram Live, connecting, and you know, Deion Sanders has about 3 million followers. So I think that Deion Sanders should have called in the first time that he was over there acting a damn fool and told him to cool off. And I think somebody pointed out a good comment. Ed Reed went off because Deion created an environment where he thought it was safe to do so. While you're able to express your feelings as such, do you think that environment include utilizing calling the administration MFers? And I've heard Coach Prime say we have to get with this complacency. We have to fix what's going on. There's a lot of complacency. He never once he started calling out Tate Reeves, it was a wrap. Follow the timeline. When he started calling out the governor and the mayor, that's when stuff got sticky, and they told him they made a phone call to Colorado and said, you got to come get this guy. And then we have somebody say that Ed Reed should have taken a different approach, but he probably was telling the truth.
SheLovesThee, I would actually say that was probably kind of correct. You know.
When you say he's telling the truth, you mean like the administration and him getting a field? I just feel like if Deion Sanders was right and he told you all along, why, when you get in it, why are you acting like it's a surprise?
Right. I guess I think he was just apparently gullible and fell for the sweet lies that was told to him from the administration about fixing this and buying this and doing this and everything. So
I don't know. I just feel like Ed Reed didn't do his due diligence to look at the campus, which you listen to Coach Prime. Coach Prime says that he had his people look into all the metrics. How many fans are at Jackson State, which he already knew we had a strong fan base. Do they travel? He already knew that we traveled. Then he knew that we had a stadium that fit X amount of people in there. He knew everything going in. He knew what he was facing. He knew he didn't have a field. He knew that Jackson State was already renovating. Let me repeat that. Jackson State was already renovating facilities. He knew that. And so I don't think that Ed Reed looked at the metrics, because doesn't Bethune Cookman's football stadium hold less than 15,000?
It's like, I want to say it's like 10,000. This is in 10,000 seat stadium at BCU, and it's like way across town.
So it's not even near campus.
No, it's on the other side of Daytona, literally.
So we have a situation where it's not on campus. It's way across the other side of town. It only holds a certain amount of people. I just feel like he just didn't look at the things. He just saw that Coach Prime got to Colorado based off of what he did at Jackson State, and he wanted to mimic it. And he didn't even look to see if Bethune Cookman could mimic that type of atmosphere. Do they have the ability? And after 2 hurricanes, it being a private institution, I would venture to say no.
SheLovesThee. Didn't he interview at a few other HBCUs before the Cookman gig?
He was linked to Grambling.
Okay. And I personally think he was just excited that somebody said yes. And he just jumped at the first opportunity to be a head coach. And he probably overlooked a whole bunch of stuff because somebody said yes.
I think he also, well, I don't think. The rumors were that he interviewed for the Jackson State job and that we passed. Anyway, I'm just gonna stop it right here. Thank you so much for coming on, J Blue.
No problem. No problem.
I want to thank everybody for tuning into my channel. This is my first live.
You had like 430 people on here watching you, man.
I know. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Keep doing
so please like and subscribe and tell your friend to tell your friend to tell your friend to come and tune into my channel. Thank you all for tuning in.